It's time to down tools for a bit. Welcome to the Toolshed, the influential podcast for anyone and everyone involved in the building industry. Here's your host, Mick Hawes.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the Toolshed podcast. On this episode, I'm going to be speaking to Colleen Sinclair from Building Connections. We're going to find all about building connections because sharing the load and having a community to talk to in the building industry is absolutely critical. And there are a few different communities about in the building industry to create sport, and we want to find out about as many as possible and how they can help you with your building business. So we'll be talking to Colleen in just a tick. Before I do, just wanted to remind you to take the Builder's Scorecard. Every business has a particular issue, and each different business tends to have a unique issue that's what we might call a roadblock issue, that when you can identify it and you can fix it, it can get rid of a whole bunch of other issues at the same time, as long as your focus is in the right direction. So if you take the scorecard, it only takes about 90 seconds. It will give you a score as to how well you're doing in various areas of your business. It will identify the area that you need to start to do some work on. And it'll also receive a report in your email to be able to point you in the right direction and give you some information as to what you might need to do. So it's only a minute and a half, but we're the best investment you can make for your business. So jump in the scorecard. The link's in the description. So let us welcome Colleen to the Toolshed. Colleen, welcome to the Toolshed. I've been cruising all around your website, getting very excited to learn about building connections. So can you please start by giving us the backstory? How or what was your involvement in the building industry that caused you to decide to put a group together like Building Connections?
Thanks so much for having me, Mick. So Phil and I, my husband, we started a scaffolding business back in 2007 it was. And when we started the business, obviously we went from being employees to being business owners, and all our friends in Melbourne were employees. We were suddenly the odd ones out, and conversations were very different. And we both came from family businesses. My parents ran a trade business. And one of the biggest things we missed when we started the business was having conversations, just everyday conversations, just sharing about our lives, asking questions, finding the answers to things that, where we'd previously had people around us where we could brainstorm solutions, we suddenly didn't have that camaraderie. And it was very isolating. It took a toll on both of us, I guess, having not having that outside influence and having the challenges of the business. So we sought support through, going to networking events. So we'd go to Master Builders, HIA type events. But we were always meeting, I guess, the suppliers and then going to other networking events. We would meet accountants, lawyers, many other businesses, but never connecting with other small business owners in the building industry. And we decided in about, so it was about 2017, we started a meetup group. And it was clear that it was something needed. Other businesses were seeking that similar support. And in 2019, we started running, we actually created Building Connections, the business, and we started hosting educational and social events. And from there, it sort of led to our membership platform. And what else can I tell you?
Well, I'm just thinking the timeline of what you've just told me. You've just set up the group and getting together, and then bang, lockdown, COVID.
Oh yeah,
COVID.
yeah. Well,
how did you deal with that?
Yeah, It was actually phenomenal. Like we had an event scheduled for the Thursday of our first lockdown, and I learnt Zoom on the fly.
Yeah. So
And
did
it was really
everybody.
yeah, we were in the it was so we had a special our special guest presenter was a speaker with Beyond Blue, and she was speaking about mental health and how we were going to actually be able to what strategies we could in place to support us through the lockdowns. And we got 40 minutes into this Zoom, and I needed to sort of go on and do a paid subscription
Oh,
because
that's
I
right.
hadn't,
Only goes
so
to 40 minutes on the free one.
yeah. So I did that in the background, and thankfully, no one even knew. Like it just kept on going. So I was really impressed with myself, I must say.
Mm. Zoom as
And
well. Like, that's pretty good.
yeah, and we ended up doing events pretty much every week through lockdown.
Yeah.
And they were very relaxed. Most of the events were just to check in, just to have a conversation about how everyone was going, and we did our educational events monthly. But it was interesting times. We'd gone from hosting these live in person events to all of a sudden being on Zoom.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's a fairly common story around about that time.
Mm.
When you get together, whether it be on a video platform like Zoom or what have you, or the face to face with like-minded tradies, builders, what have you, what are the
Yep.
topics that tend to come up? What are the sort of the organic topics that tend to be discussed when they all get together?
Quite often it is around staffing. That's
Mm.
probably the number one topic, and finding work, consistency of work, um, chasing money. Sometimes the conversation's more around what's happening in a personal sense, how they're coping with the stresses. One of the um, early events, I had a gentleman come up to me. He's a bricklayer, ran a team of, he had 15 staff. And he said how nice it was to come into an environment where stress was talked about so
Mm.
freely.
Mm.
He'd never been in an environment where he was able to express the challenges he was having in his business. And I guess that was probably one of the conversations that really filled my heart and has really been the fuel to keep going.
On the podcast, we've had many guests that were focused on suicide prevention and mental health challenges in the building industry. How important and what sort of comments have you heard, or people have come up to you and mentioned that the benefits of being in a group in relation to your mental health, rather than being an island or a silo and thinking you're the only one that's got this problem and everyone else is doing well? What's wrong with me? What sort of comments do you get from your members about the value of just being part of a community?
Most of it's the camaraderie. Like they just love the fact that there's someone that they know that they can come to one of our events, and there's going to be someone in the room that has been through the same sort of challenges they have, and they're having real conversations. So I think um, it's it's such an authentic space to be in, and there's no conversation that's off limits. People are just open to share their experiences, and I think the most common comment is just that thank you for providing this space. There's been quite a few people through over the last 5 years or so that have lost team members
Mm.
or customers that through suicide, and also through stroke. So I think sometimes the stress is minimised, and we forget the impact that the stress has on us long term, on our on our physical health as well as our mental health.
Yeah. Yeah, it affects everything. It affects relationships and all sorts of things. With the events, can you help us understand what it might look like, what you might experience being a member of Building Connections? You have the in-person events, and I'm assuming you still do online events. How does it work?
Yep. So our building industry meetup, we've got one tomorrow night, and it's unlike other networking events where there's KPIs to meet, and you've got to do a formal pitch. They're very much a relaxed space. We occasionally have someone comes in and speaks for maybe 10 minutes on a particular topic. We've had people, just speak about mental health. We had for Work Health and Safety Month last year, we had a representative from Stroke Australia come in and speak about stroke and how to recognise the signs of stroke. We've had two of our ambassadors have spoke about collaboration. So they met at one of our September events, and they have now joined forces and are doing amazing things together. So it's really a space where it's a really relaxed environment, and I facilitate the introduction. So I usually reach out to everyone that's registered prior to an event to find out if there's anyone they're looking to connect with, so that I can actually facilitate that introduction at an event. Or if I can't, I will facilitate that introduction outside of an event. But they're held at a brewery. So our monthly building industry meetups are at a brewery. So as you can imagine, very relaxed, fun environment. And we do a Ladies Behind the Tradies catch up, which is in the middle of the day. That's a lunch done at a cafe, and we usually do an activity or a task in that time. So our one next week, we're going to be doing our default diaries. In November, we did Google business profiles and how to maximise those, and how to put a strategy together for collecting 5-star Google reviews. So I guess they're the two main events. We do a Ticket Off Tuesday for our members, which is a co-working space where we tackle a task. So last week we did social media content for the next 4 weeks. So those tasks that, quite often get pushed to the bottom, you're a little uneasy doing yourself because you just want a sounding board. That's the space where you can come in and have support around you, ask the questions, but there's also that quiet sort of working time. And then we have our more of our social club events, which is like barefoot bowling, golf, and our Dine for Dementia.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying the podcast. We're always trying to bring you information that's going to make your life as a builder much easier. So give us a thumbs up and make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the next episode. Yeah, nice. You mentioned that you have an event just for the female partners, wives, girlfriends, what have you. We have a Builders Business Black Belt ladies group as well that I have no idea what goes on in, because I'm not allowed to be part of it. Yeah, it's something like that. What are some of the challenges and the issues that come up for tradies, wives and girlfriends? Because it, like, more often than not, they're kind of dragged in by default. It's not their dream. Like, why don't we start a building business? It's like they get sucked into it. What are you talking about?
So most of these ladies have left a career that they were really successful at, and they had a great deal of confidence in what it was that they were doing, and then they come into the building industry and quite often feel a little overwhelmed, isolated, and unvalidated. Most of them refer to themselves as just doing the bookwork or just doing the payroll, and they are constantly minimising the involvement in the business. So that's one of my real big passions, is to have these ladies seen as the valuable members of the building industry that they are, and having them see themselves as valuable contributors to the industry. One of the ladies that joined us last year for the first time, she had she'd been working with her husband in the building industry for 30 years. So
Wow.
they're actually heading into retirement this year. But she was, she just felt unvalidated. She would say to her husband when he got home, I don't feel like I've achieved anything today. And, she'd always be beating herself up. And it was really nice to she came to our events. We had a bit of a mentoring session together, and she now rides her horse twice a week, and she has boundaries around the way she spends her time in the business. Her and her husband have very strict job descriptions, so they both understand where each other's role falls in the business, and there's a mutual respect for that role that's played in the business.
Yeah. I mean, that's so important to be able to help people genuinely be able to self-appreciate the value that they have, whether it's, part of a business. But I think it's probably bigger than that as well, because there are many builders that I've spoken to over my journey doing this where they, like, for instance, it leads to free quoting and all that sort of stuff, because it's like, it's only my time, and and it's like, you got to be kidding me. Like,
Yeah.
builders are an incredible contributor to society, because they make the environments in which our families grow up and our memories are created, and based on the quality of the design and the functionality of the environment you grow up in, or grow your family within, it can have a profound effect on your life's experience. And
Yeah.
I'd love for builders to be able to appreciate themselves for the massive contribution that they make. What's it like, or what's the pathway to becoming a member? And is it just a local geographical membership, or do you have members from other regions or states that join you digitally?
So we are a Melbourne Eastern Suburbs service at the moment.
Yeah.
We are just, we put on a couple of ambassadors at the end of last year, and we're looking to expand and be doing north, south, east, west of Victoria initially, and then ideally we would like to go Australia-wide. The membership itself has it's going to be launched with 3 new levels coming up in the coming weeks. So we have like a directory level where there's you get your listing, and then you get discount on events. Then we have our connector membership, which is where they get free access to all of our events and discounted services. And then there's the higher level where we actually do like a boardroom once a month, where it's really more like a mastermind and brainstorming solutions in a more formal environment.
Yeah, that's really cool. So people have got different options. How do they find out more? What's the pathway to you? What's the best way to get in contact?
So best way to get in contact is go to our website, so buildingconnections.com.au, or follow us on our socials. So we're on Instagram and Facebook with BC Building Connections as our handle. Reach out to me via email, hello@buildingconnections.
Well, we'll make sure we put the website and the email and all the relevant links, social links and what have you, in the description, so people can just click and go. But I just want to thank you for, being on the podcast, but primarily doing what you're doing, because it's a passion of mine, and it's the driver behind Builders Business Black Belt to have a positive influence in the building industry, because there's no such thing as a bludger in the building industry that I can identify. They all work really, really hard, and anything we can do to eliminate the unnecessary pain that can happen running a building business and copying the flack from clients or prospects that think you're too expensive and have no idea of the costs and all of the logistics behind running a building business. Anything we can do to help, we need to do. And I just tip my hat to you for putting this together and having the vision of being able to go nationwide. So I guess anybody listening to this, because it will go it goes across the world, but in Australia, and you're interested in potentially starting up, let's call it a chapter of building connections in another state, please get in contact. But thank you very much for being on the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, because it really is great to see so many people, working for that greater good of the improving the well-being of the building industry.
Yes, brilliant. Thanks again.
Thank you.
So that's it, folks. That's another episode of the Toolshed podcast. I hope it got you thinking. There is nothing better for your business than being in a community of like-minded people, and it's not always because of what you can learn and what you can take away from it. Quite often, it is just really helpful and supportive being in a group where you finally find out that you're not the only one with this problem or these problems. Other people are having those same issues, and you can share your experience and you can share your knowledge and help each other. It's like the flock of geese, in the big V. Everyone takes a go at the front, and you can go further on less energy. And that's the same as a community. So jump into the website, have a look at Building Connections, make the call, particularly if you're in Southeast Melbourne, and get involved in the face-to-face conversations and events. You absolutely won't regret it. So just before you go, another quick reminder, click the link in the description, the scorecard link, and take the scorecard app. It's only 90 seconds, and it will help you identify the single issue that if you figure out how to fix it, and we'll help you with a report after you've done the scorecard on what you need to do to fix your specific unique challenge. And when you get rid of that, a whole lot of other challenges disappear at the same time. So it gets some quick wins, and you can get some fast progress without a whole lot of effort and wasted time. So take the scorecard. You'll be glad you did. We'll be back with another episode of the Toolshed podcast. Before you know it, I'm Mick Hawes, Builder's Business Black Belt. That is all. I'm out. Bye for now.
You've been listening to the Toolshed. If this podcast struck a chord with you, make sure you spread the word by sharing it with your mates in the building industry. We love your help to make the building industry better for everyone involved.